It's available Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, featuring the four fellas, one of whom, Josh Holmes, joins us now. Mr. Holmes, I'm not going to object to the officiating in London that allowed your Vikings to come back and beat my Browns. That would be ungentlemanly of me. I do want to know if the fellas' parlay has paid off yet this year.
One time. Week one, all four teams hit. Of course, Joe Burrow was a part of the Cincinnati Bengals at that point, so we could rely on that. I'm sad to report my Vikings let the parlay down last week against the Eagles, but otherwise, this thing hits 2 or 3 times a year, and it's great odds. Great odds.
Well, you should not have won the first week because Mr. Schmidt, the Browns kicker, went wide right with no time remaining on the clock. Not that I'm keeping score. Josh Holmes, we got to cover a lot of business. I want to remind everyone, especially our new affiliates, that you are a professional. Before you got into the business of having fun for money, you actually advised the Senate leadership. You know the details of campaign. I want to know who's going to blink and when they're going to blink in this shutdown. And how do they know that they're gaining or losing ground? I thought their exit ramp was this week after the No Kings Walker rally, but now it's obviously not. When do they get off of this highway?
Yeah, well, I think, look, my co-host, I got to give credit to John Ashbrook, who sort of ferreted this out, but he looked at not only the No Kings situation, but as it coincided with Election Day in Virginia and New Jersey. And Democrats for a long time, going back to the beginning of my political career, have, when their chips are down, they look for any electoral victory to sort of suggest to a mainstream media that, of course, polls are wrong, all these things are wrong, the last election results are wrong, it's what's going forward, and there's a rejection in 2 blue states of what Republicans are trying to do, and so therefore you should cover things accordingly. And his hypothesis, which I think is a really, really good one, is that you have a huge concentration of federal workers in Northern Virginia. You have a Republican government, obviously, but not a lot of people do the math on the fact that you need 60 votes in the United States Senate and that like just a handful of Democrats can block all of government funding and shut the government down in and of themselves, and so they blame Republicans. And his thought is the No Kings rally was really about trying to get a whole bunch of people in to early vote, get registered, and make sure that mail-in ballots are in and all those kind of things in Virginia and New Jersey, and then capitalize upon this angst that a whole bunch of people are not getting their paychecks in Virginia in particular, where things have slid sideways for the Democrats. And I think it's a pretty good theory, to be honest with you. It seems to be playing out at this point.
Now, that was from Ashbrook? That's a very Cincinnati theory. It's upside down. I think it's upside down because federal employees know that it takes 60 votes to open the government. I mean, federal employees are very clued in about how they get paid. I ran OPM.
They're also very democratic, Hugh. They're also very democratic. And I think that in this case in Northern Virginia, and you live there, you know, but there's an awful lot of people looking for a reason. And just the anxiety of not having a paycheck and somebody to blame, the proclivity is to blame Donald Trump and Republicans first. And that's the bet that Democrats are making. And if you look at some of the registration early vote numbers that came out of last week when they were holding the No Kings rally, it's pretty stark. It actually supersedes presidential level turnout in places like Fairfax County.
Oh, wow.
Montgomery County. Yeah, they're places that Democrats need in order to overcome things like, I don't know, a candidate suggesting that he kill a political opponent's children, right? I mean,
I love driving around Northern Virginia and seeing the Spanberger Jones signs. Those make me very happy that they can't take those down because they need him up with Spanberger and the guy who wants to be a murderer. That is, bad planning. Okay, what about New Jersey? There might be some feds up in Chitterelli land, but it seems to me that Chitterelli's got the mo there.
He does have the mo, and it's different than Virginia in that New Jersey has become more Republican acceptable in the era of Trump than a place like Virginia, which has gone sideways for Republicans. It's not been, other than the Youngkin win, the incredible win post-COVID, Virginia has become more blue. New Jersey, although it's not come red by any stretch of the imagination, has become much more competitive than it was, much more inclined to support a President Trump and President Trump-like candidates. And I think that you're seeing that play out. Chitterelli clearly has momentum in that race. There's no question about that. Just look at what his opponent is having to say on a day-to-day basis, but clowning herself about trying to misconstrue his record. I guess the question is always goes back to, in the era of Trump, we have not done particularly well in the Republican Party when Donald J. Trump's name is not on that ballot. 2018, 2022, you look at all the special elections in between, and now maybe 2025 is the opportunity to change all of that. But that is where Republicans are running uphill here.
All right, very quick exit question, Josh Holmes. Up in Maine, which is my getaway state, Janet Mills at 79 wants to be sworn into the Senate as a freshman. She wants to replace the most powerful senator in the Senate, not named Thune, Susan Collins, chairwoman of appropriation. What do you make of that, Ray? Democrats are so desperate to keep that nutter off the ballot that they're wheeling out the war horse. What do you think? Does that work?
They are. And, you can come at Susan Collins, but you better pack a lunch, because there is a long list of hopeful Democrats ranging from, 70-something, all the way. Last opponent, I think, was like 36, and everywhere in between, of people who thought that she was an easy out in the state of Maine, and she never has been in any form or fashion. Democrats are doing everything they can do to try to prevent some psychopath from entering into his primary dynamic that complicates their future. I don't think it matters at some point. I think Susan Collins is so strong in the state of Maine, and she's so independent and represents that constituency so well, that it kind of doesn't matter who you throw up against it. Whether or not the far left is energized or whether or not the moderate middle is energized, I think Maine has proven that somebody like Susan Collins is exactly the right representation for them over a long period of time, frankly.
I hope she comes and does it right along with the fellows, because she is a fabulous retail politician, and not many people know that. Josh Holmes, always good to see you. I hope your parlay works again, but the Vikings stole one in London, and I wanted you to hear that from my lips. Follow him on X at Holmes Josh, and the program is at the Ruthless Variety Program, wherever podcasts are available. Thank you, Josh. I want to tell you about Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs. Easy to remember, pharmawindfall.com. President Trump is standing up to Big Pharma in a way that no president ever had. They had their way with President Obama and Obamacare. And Big Pharma did just great in COVID. They did just great in COVID relief that we didn't need at the start of the Biden term downhill. Conservatives for Lower healthcare costs, want them to prevent getting a third dip at the trough. And so they are teaming up behind President Trump's agenda for accountability and affordability. You can find out about that at pharmawindfall.com. That's pharmawindfall.com. Don't wait. Go to it during the break. pharmawindfall.com. I'm Hugh Hewitt, and I'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Conservatives for Lower Healthcare Costs.